Welcome back to The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. We completed a couple of requests last time, as well as completing the first of Cassius's jobs for us, that of, kind of exterminating, but not quite, some monsters attacking the farm. And now we have a request from Mayor Klaus himself. Before we do that though, I might as well stop over at Arms and Guards while I'm here. We got a lot of money from those previous requests. Yeah, quite a lot of money, so let's go ahead and buy kunai, which is actually the best weapon available for Joshua in the prologue. Estelle gets something a little better later on, but the kunai, there's no better than that at this point. So let's go ahead and buy that. That's another weapon out of the way for the achievement. And speaking of achievements, I might as well take care of getting this. Like I said though, you don't need to buy this for the armor achievement, because the character who joins at the end of the prologue will have one of these automatically, but this is better defense, might as well buy 2 of them. You can also get boots for even more defense, but you can also buy this thing, which prevents blind. That helps against the crop muncher earlier. Actually, while I'm at it, I might as well get a couple of these. Actually, let's hold off on the black bangle for now. Gotta make sure to equip the new kunai on Joshua, and equip the new armor for everyone. It's only gonna give us a slight increase in defense, but if there was ever a game where the expression "every little bit helps" is apt, it is the Trails series. In this game, the way the damage formulas work is that a tiny increase in strength or defense can mean a huge difference in damage. I think I'll actually be going over the full damage formulas in this part. And as always, Stella has some pretty good dialogue. So, before I head out to talk to the mayor, I'm actually going to go up to Roland Landing Port, which is all the way up the road here, because there should be someone here with a quest for us from the Bracers Guild. This guy. Yep. My tone made it kind of obvious, this guy's a jerk. But, well, you can't pick who you get work from. Pay is pay. Well, you're the one who probably can't afford better braces. So that's pretty much all we'll need to know. Check the grass along the Malga Trail. The Firefly fungus is actually right on the path to where we need to go next anyway, hence why I accepted this quest now. But the reason why I accepted it, you know, immediately, is because on my test playthrough of this game, I forgot to talk to Orvid before going to do the main story stuff. And as it turns out, the Firefly fungus isn't there unless you've talked to Orvid in advance. So, yeah, it follows kind of annoying RPG logic that way. And, yes. Pervert Airport Man. Let's just go and talk to Mayor Klaus. Here is the mayor's residence. It's actually pretty large for a backwater town like this. Now I'm sounding like Orvid. As I said before, you can actually come here earlier. There's just no real reason to. Except to get some good dialogue. Here's our friendly mayor. I don't know why though, but this guy's portrait always reminded me of a generic RPG Maker portrait. Just looks like the kind of thing you'd find in the sample assets of RPG Maker. So we have to head to the mine. And here's some terminology here. Seepeth is unrefined. Escorting a giant crystal, a giant valuable crystal. That can't possibly go wrong. You can actually find the entrance to the mine earlier if you go through the other path of the trail, but you won't be able to get in without this letter. So we have our next destination. While we're here though, there are a couple of people in the mayor's house that we can talk to. There's his wife. Well, hopefully you should be getting shipments of vegetables soon. The monster problem has been dealt with. Nothing in the attic. But yeah, there is a maid here. Seems like she gets news faster than the mayor's wife does. Anyway, there really isn't much to do at this point except head straight down the trail. So, yeah, now I could take this opportunity while we're walking through areas that we've already been to discuss how the damage formulas of this game work exactly. I actually do have these written down. Yep, there we go. Okay, so, get ready for a little bit of semi-complicated mathematics here, but I've got the notes up. So, for physical attacks, the damage formula is getting attacked by a flying feline. The formula is 3.38 times, and there, I'll put this formula up on screen, don't worry. In brackets, strength plus K times power. Don't worry about K for most attacks, that actually only exists for S-crafts. Times weakness minus 1.82 times enemy's defense. So basically, strength and defense get multiplied by a flat number in the damage formula, and that means little increases in strength and defense compound quite a lot in the grand scheme of things. Like I said before, this is a game where the tiniest increase in one of those stats can make for a drastic change in overall damage, especially on Nightmare mode. So, these red Insectosses, if you fight them right at the beginning of the game, they're actually kind of a threat, but at this point, not so much. Yeah, they're weak to all elements, it's fine. Doesn't really matter that Joshua doesn't have fire anymore at this point. I don't want to try out Aerial just yet. In fact, I don't need to worry too much about spending EP here, because there's a heal point in the mine. Kind of gives away that we will be fighting stuff in the mine, but, you know, when won't we be fighting things in an RPG? So, yeah, the K variable is actually for S-crafts, and what it actually does is, it means that S-craft damage slightly scales with your level. Basically, K is 1.02 plus level times 0.01 for S-crafts at 100 CP, and 1.53 plus level times 0.015 for S-crafts at 200 CP. In layman's terms, the 200 CP version is better, but also S-crafts scale with your level, meaning that they'll never be obsolete no matter what point you are in the game. This is definitely a good thing. The formula for magic is a little bit different, and I may need to heal Estelle here soon. I think we're already decently enough leveled, so I don't really want to fight these things. Why am I going this way, you may ask? Well, not only is the final chest for this area here, white bracelet. This chest is now full of disappointment! I had to reference that. Actually, I just realized I haven't equipped any accessories on either Estelle or Joshua. We have 2 white bracelets, might as well equip 1 on each. You have 2 accessory slots, and who wants to be... I guess Estelle's a little tankier, she'll take the poison immunity. I'd better remember to buy boots for my characters a bit later. And now, I'm going to want to heal. Because it turns out the Firefly fungus is right here. And like I said earlier, it won't be here unless you've talked to Orvid. I made that mistake in an earlier playthrough. The problem is, Firefly fungus glows just like Septium does, and remember what they said about Septium earlier in the game? Septium attracts monsters. Our client probably should have told that to us before we accepted the request, but oh well. 3 Flying Felines is actually a perfect opportunity to demo Aerial. Aerial is what's referred to as a set AoE attack. This means you get to choose a specific point on the battlefield to target. So if you aim it right, you can actually catch all enemies in this. A trick that I like to do with this is what I like to call trapping, which is where I set the AoE to be close to us so that when the enemies fly in to attack, they'll all be caught in the AoE effect. Let's just use, I think, Upward Lead here. So, you've gone into aerial range. You've just barely got into aerial range, and come on. All 3 of them are now in aerial range. This is going to be really, really fun. Aerial's kind of overkill for these guys, but I just wanted to show it. Here we go. You'll be seeing this animation a lot earlier on in the game. In Cold Steel, I know I keep saying that, but I did start playing Cold Steel. Like, Cold Steel was my introduction to the series. In Cold Steel, you can skip all animations, including magic, but in this one, you can only skip S-Crafts. At least you have Turbo Mode. Anyway, Aerial is insanely good for this early in the game. Don't worry, I will go back to that monster chest on the Milch Main Road eventually. Not quite yet, though. No. Before that, let's do what we actually came here for and head to the mine. So, I guess now's as good a time as any to talk about the magic damage formula. So, the magic damage formula in this game is really interesting. It is 1.4 times ATS, that's short for Art Strength, that's basically your magic stat. Plus, and here's the interesting bit of the formula, 3.3 times the spell's power. Then that's multiplied by the weakness, and then minus 2.8 times the enemy's defense. So the 3.3 plus spell power is really interesting because what it means in practice is that higher tier spells actually just do a flat increased amount of damage compared to the lower tier versions. So power is effectively additive and not multiplicative. What does that mean? It means that higher tier spells are actually a lot better early in the game than they are later in the game. Once your ATS stat gets higher, the gap starts closing between regular spells and the stronger versions. But early in the game, when ATS is still quite low, spells with a lot of power inflict a lot of additional flat damage. And this is important because Hellgate actually has a lot of power for an early game spell. Hopefully we'll be getting Hellgate pretty soon. But once we get it, you'll see just how much more damage Hellgate does than other attacks. It's actually equivalent to second tier spells in terms of damage. So just checking my notes, Aerial has 20 power in comparison to the 10 power of most of the lower tier spells. So it is doing a flat 33 more damage than other spells at this point in the game. I should also mention that there's a guy at the bar who's supposed to be working at the mine who you can see back in town. And he has some pretty funny dialogue if you talk to him sometimes. You can also go to the boss's house in Roller 2. By the way, this song's amazing. I'm just going to let it play for a moment. Anyway, we have a pretty standard minecart flipping the switch changes the tracks puzzle, which actually is the only instance of this kind of puzzle in the whole game. There's no minecarts at all on the lower levels. But I guess it's a nice little element of world building with explaining how the mines work. Except once we go here, we need to do a little bit more busy work because the elevator is not working. We have to go back, flip the switch, and ask the miner again, so I'll be right back. And turbo mode, yay! It's fun to randomly activate turbo mode sometimes. And going down. There's not really that much to this place, but I would recommend just taking a little bit of time to familiarize yourself with this area, particularly where all of the miners are. There's no chest down here though, don't worry about that. We can also spin the camera around if we want, but I find it's a bit more convenient to keep its pointing directly upwards. This is still a really nice song, though. And here's the heal point that I mentioned before. There's two more miners down here. Oh yeah, that must be the guy who you often see in the bar. Yeah, you better not let the boss catch you doing that. Especially if your fellow miners are aware. There's a few more... Okay, that's the boss. Let's not talk to him just yet. Let's instead go over here and see there are two more miners over here. One of them is, of the religious miner variety. Anyway, now I can go ahead and talk to the boss. Thankfully, we're not too interested in this since we already have Aerial. That's all the wind Septium will ever need. While I do love this little animation, Estelle, be careful because remember what the Firefly Fungus did? And also that, yeah, don't break the invaluable precious gem. And she actually knows to put it away this time. Of course, we couldn't be here on a normal mining day. It had to be some kind of disaster going on. It's not just a cave-in. We have some enemies to deal with. These things here. And they're gonna just miss us completely. These things here are killer crabs. They have pretty decent physical defense. And yeah, I'm not seeing their info because I don't have the information quartz equipped. Oh yeah, you do have to protect the boss miner as well, Gaton, otherwise Otherwise, you will get an immediate game over. And they do kill him fairly quickly if they get close to him, so you'll need to pay attention to that. Let's focus on the weakened one here. Wow, Stella's getting her next turn late. I really want to use Aerial. Okay, yeah, you can aim healing spells at NPCs if you think they're in danger of dying. Can I get... Yes, I can get all three of them. Excellent. See what I meant about wanting to get Aerial as soon as possible? It also does pretty solid damage for this point in the game, too. Aerial is just amazing all round. How low have you... Yeah, I can easily finish you off with a Dual Strike. No, I actually can't. Huh. Well, I don't think the Chief's in any danger at this point. Especially not with them missing like that. Okay, I just barely can't catch both of them in that Aerial. Both have the exact same amount of HP, too. So I guess I'll just go for a basic airstrike. Yeah, most of the AoEs where you get to directly choose where they land are of the wind elements. Wind and I was about to call it dark. Time is basically dark in this game. Wind and time are the two elements that oh nice, level up. Don't even need to use the heal point. Those are the two elements that have the best AoEs in the game, and generally speaking, you'll be seeing those elements for the majority of the game thanks to that. It's kind of fitting that I'm talking about magic in an episode where we're going to the Septium mine. Remember when I said that you should memorize where the other miners were? This is why. We're gonna need to go and track them all down and rescue them. So there are 4 others. Oh, we also get two tier bombs, which we're probably not really gonna need. And we also have these things just randomly in the field now. Guess I'll aim one of those at you. It's definitely possible to have Hellgate at this point too. Hellgate's a little different to Aerial though. It's an AoE that's centered on an enemy, which means that on the plus side, it is guaranteed to at least hit something, but on the minus side, it's a little harder to catch multiple enemies in those AoEs, because it's a bit reliant on the enemy's positioning, which is very unreliable, as you can probably tell. But yeah, the downside of Aerial, though, is, for example, like, say I aimed Aerial, like, here, because enemies were there, and then all the enemies moved out of range of it before the spell went off. That's the downside of Aerial. You can potentially end up hitting nothing. And I will actually need to go and use the heal point. Oh, hi there, I didn't even see you. Thankfully, it's only one of these crabs. There's a crab enemy later on in the game that has a really hilarious name, but unfortunately this is not that crab. Actually wondering about something. How do you guys like the battle theme so far? I kind of like it. It's sort of jazzy. You don't hear a lot of RPG battle themes like that. Okay, let's head back down these tunnels and hopefully dodging the enemies this time. Looks like they're already in danger. Let's hurry and save them. Yeah, there are quite a few mandatory fights with these things. And I can get another aerial off here. So yeah, like I mentioned before, time, space, and mirage are generally neutral against all enemies. Except this game doesn't actually have, I believe it doesn't have any space elemental offensive spells. And while there technically is a mirage element offensive spell, well, I'll get to that much later. I'll just say that it's enemy exclusive and leave it at that. And yeah, be thankful that the NPC escort missions in this game are not nearly as bad as the second one. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. At least on hard mode. On normal, the escort missions in SC are not that bad, but on anything above, they kind of forgot to scale the NPC stats with the difficulty, just as a sneak preview. NPCs don't last long in the second game on hard mode. So anyway, let's just go ahead and rescue all of these miners. Just a random thing that I can talk about here is that I recently found out that in real life, miners actually get paid a lot of money. I think that's partially because their work can be dangerous, and also because they often spend a lot of time away from their families. So let's help these two. These fights are all pretty much the same, but it is a good place to demo aerial. I haven't actually mentioned this before, but you can probably tell by now. The EP for a spell is not deducted until... Okay, good, you're still in the area. The EP for a spell is not deducted until you actually cast it, so if an enemy hits you with an impede attack before a spell goes off, don't worry, you don't lose the EP or anything like that. Also, if an enemy uses an AoE spell, you actually will get to see the area while they're casting, so you still have time to move your characters out of the way if you want. I don't think a single chill strike is enough to finish them here. Wow, these crabs are really not having a good day, accuracy-wise. Okay, Estelle is at 200 CP. The CP system in this game it does lead to a lot of interesting tactical possibilities in that you've got to think, do I use my CP now or do I save it for later? Because using an S-craft at 200 CP gives you one very powerful attack, but CP is also used for basic crafts, and that'll mean that you can't use basic crafts for a little while because you'll, have lost all your CP. But if you hoard your CP for too long and end up getting KO'd and you lose it all, then yeah, that's also really bad. So far we've rescued 4 miners, but there were a few more up in the higher parts of this area. In the next fight, I want to explain a little bit about a couple of buff spells that we technically have access to, but I haven't used yet for good reason. Yeah, this game has some... Oh, hi crab. Okay, that's the elevator, no miners that way. There's an enemy that way, but no miners. Oh, there's a few more than the boss thought there were down here. So, regarding those buff spells, Joshua from having 1 Time Quartz has access to Clock Up, which boosts speed by 25%. Now, speed is generally considered the best stat in the Trails games, because higher speed means you get your turn more often. I haven't actually explained that before, but it should have been pretty obvious. So you'd think that a 25% speed buff would be really worth casting. This early in the game, not so much. This early in the game, a 25% increase in speed is only going to raise your speed by like 1 point, which won't make that big of a difference in the long run. It's only later on when speed buffs become a lot better, because then your speed is higher and you'll get a much bigger increase. But by that point, we have access to an even better speed buff. So, generally speaking, the basic Clock Up almost never sees use in these games. Similarly, Estelle also has access to a buff from her Wind Quartz, but the wind buffs are even worse than basic Clock Up. I mean, Clock Up itself is not terrible, but I find that there are better things to do at this point in the game. Later on, though, Clock Up is pretty much worth casting immediately in every single battle that you're in. It's that good. Well, exterminating monsters like we usually do. Unless they're cute, like the ones at the farm. Ah, that's why there was 1 extra miner compared to how many the boss thought were down here. This guy was going a little bit out of his designated area. And, yeah, that looks like the monster den. And there's nothing else we can do there. So I guess while we're still here, I can cover this. Yes, Sylphan Guard, agility plus 50%. Agility affects evasion in this game. I generally just don't find this buff to be that useful. Barely anyone I know actually uses that buff in Trails games. There's another wind-based buff that increases movement, and normally movement increasing abilities in games like this are really good, but here, it doesn't actually seem all that worth it. And yes, we've got everyone, so we can safely head out. Huh. Yeah, I knew the new guy was suspicious. Looks like there's a little more to this incident than it seems. Alright, the crystal. Yeah, we almost forgot about that. Please don't joke about that again. We can go ahead and talk to all the miners after having saved them as well if we want to. But yeah, I suspect the new guy actually caused that cave-in. Yeah, we can't go back into the elevator. Do we still have the key? Yeah, we don't seem to have the key anymore, so we must have given it back. Don't worry, there's no, like, loss of BP for forgetting to bring back the key. Yeah, looks like the entire lower mine is out of action for now. Yeah, more of you, maybe you guys need to train yourselves a little bit. Get yourselves some augments, maybe? I wonder how expensive augments are in this universe. But nothing left to do but to head back to town and report the Firefly Fungus quest. And here we are, back in town. Since we're pretty close, we might as well report to Orvid here. And give him a chewing out for the fact that he didn't warn us that the mushroom attracts monsters. Yeah, you knew all along. And let us go on the quest even though we were juniors. Ah, so it's one of those kinds of mushrooms. No doubt you're gonna sell it to some nobles from Erebonia. Well, at least the request is done. We can't choose our clients. This kind of reminds me of those clients from hell stories you often hear from freelancers. This is definitely one of them. And he's still a jerk. Let's report our main quest here. And it's the girl in uniform that we met earlier. Yeah, there was a reason I went out of my way to talk to her before. If you don't make an effort talking to NPCs, this might be your first time seeing her, but you can actually see her all around town before this. Finally, she has a name. And she seems to be from a pretty prestigious school. Josette? Okay. Your last name is the same name as the most broken character in Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. That's awesome. Yeah, you could see this alluded to if you talked to her at the hotel earlier. Honestly, I think she's the one intruding on our business here. We read about the Queen's anniversary in the paper. That actually seems like a good present. It's a precious jewel, and it has a practical use too. Yes, you almost dropped and broke a present to the Queen. That would have been really bad. Yeah, I wouldn't want anyone getting any ideas and stealing this thing. Especially since it's a present to the Queen. Oh, I guess we aren't going to be seeing much of her. Well, she's got a portrait and a name. I'm sure we will. That's kind of the rule of these kind of games. Though, not so much, because in this game, most random people around town who aren't really relevant to anything, not even side quests, have names. But she does have a portrait. And yet more of Joshua's love life. So that is 2 jobs down, and that's as good a time as any to end this episode. So next time we actually won't quite be going out to do the 3rd job, because there is another request that I want to take care of first. That one being medical necessities. For an optional side quest, this thing's practically its own main story mission, so we'll be covering that next time. See you all then.